Hello and welcome to my top 10 list of main characters of The Office. So let me start this list with some qualifiers for who will appear in this list. First, and probably most importantly, I will not be including Michael, Jim, Dwight, or Pam in this list. Each of these characters will easily dominate the top half of the list, and the second half of this video would probably be pretty predictable. Ranking those characters would make for an interesting video topic at some point, but for today, I'm axing them from the list. So who's on the table? Well, much like Jim and Michael's bean-based ranking system for performance-based raises,
what does a bean mean?
I'll be considering any character a main character if the character spans multiple seasons, has a story arc of their own, and generally, they have a part in almost every episode. So based on my top 10 supporting characters list, I'm sure that the topic of what a main versus a supporting character is going to be a hotly debated item. But I don't care. So without further ado, let's rank these people. Number 10, Jan Levinson.
Jan Levinson, I presume.
Still me.
I debated internally how to treat Jan, as whether she was a supporting character or a main character. But I landed on main character as her role is vital for the first 4 seasons of The Office. Melora Hardin is not a comedic actress by any means, but she did an amazing job of playing the straight woman to Michael in early seasons. And though she isn't a comedic actress, she does have some truly hilarious moments. And I think it's all in the timing and tone.
Can happen between us at the convention.
Step away from me, Michael.
And Jan's arc through the series moves from a stern executive to a self-destructive executive to a self-destructive entrepreneur to an empowered, maybe still self-destructive single mother.
We're all sisters and brothers.
I have herpes.
Well, you...
To whatever she is here.
Very good.
Do you have a valid passport?
And from Jan's story, we can learn that this
is neither here nor there. My psychiatrist thinks that I have some self-destructive tendencies and that for once, I should indulge them. You following me?
leads down some dark roads. A great takeaway from Jan's story is that we can always have hope, no matter how bleak or difficult the situation we're in is. There's always hope to land on your feet.
Check, please.
Moving on. Number 9, Phyllis Vance. The soft-spoken, yet sassy Phyllis has a special place in my heart. Though she's quick to remind Michael that they went to high school together, she does bring a matronly presence to the office. Although she does have some claws at times.
Close your mouth, sweetie. You look like a trout.
Phyllis's arc through the series is not one of great character change, but she starts as a middle-aged single woman.
I think she is an incredibly attractive person.
And ends the series in a marriage with a man who absolutely adores her.
1,000!
That's not worth it.
1,000 going once, 1,000 going twice. So the 1,000!
From Phyllis's story, I think that we can learn that we should be ourselves, embrace it, and know that if companionship is something we desire, there's always a Bob Vance waiting for you. Moving on. Number 8, Ryan Howard. Okay, so here we are. The character of Ryan is one in which the writers use very liberally for various arcs throughout the series. There was the temp stage, the junior sales associate stage, the executive stage, the recovery stage, the wolf.com stage, and then what I'd call trying to find happiness stage. So while the character of Ryan doesn't have a series-wide arc, he is a character who is intentionally written to annoy us, but not without a purpose. At the heart of Ryan's many facades is a desire to find purpose and meaning. His often over-the-top attempts are generally met with unanticipated consequences. So from the story of Ryan, through the annoyingly arrogant character he becomes, we learn a lot of ways that we will not find meaning and we won't find happiness.
It's weird. I'd rather she be alone than with somebody. Is that love?
Moving on. Number 7, Stanley Hudson.
Wanted. Middle-aged black man with sass. Big butt. Bigger heart.
Stanley isn't a hard guy to figure out. He says what he means, and he does what he says.
And if you don't like it, you can leave. And I say the same thing to my current wife, and I'll say it to my next one, too.
He seems to work hard enough to be perfectly average, at least enough to afford him daily naps, and a complete lack of participation in whatever Michael's daily meeting is. And when Stanley is on, he will fiercely defend himself.
Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it. What you looking for? Ain't nobody gonna help you out there.
Did I stutter?
And also, Stanley's arc has some underlying drama to it. Affairs, divorce, mistresses, and maybe a Black Panther?
Look at those biceps. We were fighting the power and eating whatever we wanted. I'm just gonna take 5 days off anyway.
And from Stanley's arc, one with a surprisingly low amount of actual character change, we can learn that when we push people away with prideful stubbornness, we'll end up alone.
The man who delivered my divorce papers came by fan boat, which was kind of fun. I sit on my porch all day carving birds.
And this one's always tripped me up a bit, because Stanley's overly positive in this talking head. But he does whittle the statue of Phyllis, indicating that he probably is missing that connection to people he kept so far away.
I missed you.
I missed you too.
That's just speculation on my part. Either way, I love Stanley. Moving on. Number 6, Erin Hannon. I think the character of Erin was created out of necessity to show growth in Pam. As Pam moved on from being a receptionist in the Michael Scott Paper Company plotline, the writers needed to fill that spot with someone. Erin is juxtaposed to Pam quite often. Pam is relatively smart, and Erin is relatively ditzy. Pam generally has a pessimistic attitude towards her coworkers, and Erin is incredibly supportive.
Will you run into the bathroom and tell him to eat it?
Of course.
Yeah! Okay. Hey, David, I'm back.
Eat it, Stanley!
And Erin arcs from someone who's never had big aspirations to a confident and strong young woman. And though Michael wasn't addressing Erin at all in this next clip,
But we can't lose the spirit of childlike wonder.
I do think that sense of childlike wonder embodies the character of Erin. She's got great lines, heartwarming moments, and rounded the cast out in a great way in the later seasons. Moving on. Number 5, halfway there, Andy Bernard. Okay, one of the biggest tragedies in The Office was the Hangover movies. Andy had to be written off the show due to his contracts for these movies, and the writers shoehorned his absences in ways that were practically unforgivable.
Aaron, I gotta go! Them's my cords!
I say this is a tragedy because without these arcs, Andy would have been so much higher on this list. Remember that some people are meant to be annoying on The Office. It's on purpose. But if you've never known an Andy, then you may not get the humor in this character. But the Nard Dog moves from an empty facade of a man to someone who's truly found confidence in who he is and has a job that he finds so much satisfaction in. I've always loved Andy's first lines.
I graduated in 4 years. I never studied once. I was drunk the whole time, and I sang in the a cappella group, Here Comes Treble.
And comparing it to his lines in the finale.
I spent so much of my time here at Dunder Mifflin thinking about my old pals, my college a cappella group. Now I'm exactly where I want to be. I got my dream job at Cornell, and I'm still just thinking about my old pals.
Sometimes watching Andy can be as painful as Scott's Tots, but it's a reminder that no matter how big or how often we've blown it, there is always a chance at redemption. Not to mention, he may have the best line in the entire series.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Moving on. Number 4, Darryl Philbin. Darryl's a self-made man who worked himself up to the warehouse manager and then beyond.
Figured I'd look presentable.
Yeah.
You went a different way.
His straight man approach to Michael worked incredibly well, and yet as the writers began to spotlight his character, he had real opportunities to shine with depth and also comedy.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Darryl's story arc is pretty amazing as well. I've always loved this moment.
Here's the thing. Joe saw something in you. She loved you. She gave you a shot, and then you stopped pushing. She noticed.
My future is not going to be determined by 7 little white lotto balls. It's going to be determined by 2 big black balls. I control my destiny.
And from Darryl's story, we can learn to always stay hungry for what it is we want to achieve in life. Not to mention, Darryl also holds one of my top most rewound moments of The Office. This sequence is amazing.
You! Oh, hey, man. Oh, you know what? Before I forget again, I talked to the guys about hiring you. They're gonna bring you in for an interview. Go get him. Oh!
Moving on. We're getting real here, and I'm gonna piss some people off. Number 3, Toby Flenderson. Wait, don't leave. The character of Toby is so good. His character was written to play off whatever the situation around him is. Sometimes we see him in HR mode. Sometimes we see him as so cringy I can feel it in my bones. And sometimes we see him wanting a camera.
Does anyone have a camera here?
Keeping in mind that Paul Lieberstein was and still is not an actor, and that this was somewhat forced upon him, yet audiences loved him so much, he became a staple in the series. And that's an incredible story in and of itself. But on top of that, everything he does and says gets me every time.
Is that enough? Should I keep going?
Why are you the way that you are?
Toby's arc is a tragic one. He wants connection so badly with people, but he just doesn't have the confidence. He tries to fill that void with his high-profile juror status and becoming a mystery novel writer. And in some ways, he's bizarro Ryan Howard, always seeking satisfaction, but never really finding it, because what we learned from The Office is that it's our connection with people that really brings satisfaction. Regardless, Toby does have great moments.
Which? Suck on this.
Moving on. Number 2, Kevin Malone. This is a pick of pure joy. Kevin, played by Brian Baumgartner, is one of the highlights of The Office for me. Kevin's dim-witted demeanor is so well done, and the amount of times in the series I wonder, how does this guy even keep a job? And then the finale goes and addresses that question for us.
It's just that you were terrible at your job.
You're just saying that to make me feel better.
No, really, you were terrible at math and organization, time management.
Though Kevin's character doesn't have an amazing amount of growth and change throughout the series, he does have some genuinely heartwarming moments.
And it was hard to see. It's just nice to win one.
And I think the simplest lesson to learn from Kevin's character is that sometimes we're not always meant for the job we have.
The turtle was already dead. Probably when I ran over him the first time.
Moving on. Okay, so a lot of people didn't make the cut. And remember, I've excluded Jim, Pam, Michael, and Dwight from my list. My pick for the number 1 main character of The Office is Creed Bratton.
It's a beautiful morning at Dunder Mifflin. As I like to call it, Great Bratton. Keep it running.
And honestly, I'm not even sure he's considered a main character, because I think he's technically a supporting character, for sure. But he does fit the criteria of my list, so I don't care. To earn my top spot, Creed is just so weird and even nonsensical at times. His energy is top-notch, and you just don't know what he's going to say anytime he's on screen.
5-cent worm.
Oh, you're paying way too much for worms, man. Who's your worm guy?
And Creed has a backstory that's explored throughout the series in glimpses, blending reality and The Office's universe together in this strange meta way, but it's delightful.
Turns out, Creed was in the band The Grassroots in the 1960s.
And Creed's presence in the finale is just so touching.
I still have my medal from that.
Do you even have a mattress?
No, but I still have my medal from that.
And from his backstory, we can learn that if we don't deal with our past, it will always come knocking.
Let's do this.
All right, and so that's it for my list. What do you think about the list? Who's on your top 10? Leave your favorite moments of your favorite characters in the comments as well. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.